Karen is my new neighbor who's young, in her 30s, and demanding. She came over the first week saying, "George, your trees are dropping leaves in my yard where I have to sweep every day, so cut them down." I said, Karen, those trees have been here for 40 years, where they're within my property line, and leaves fall in the fall because it's natural." She said, "I don't care. Cut them down or I'll complain to the city." The city came saying, "The trees are legal." But Karen didn't give up, where she harassed me for 3 months with notes, lights, and yelling. My wife Martha said, "George, cut down those trees because there's no peace left." So I cut them down, all of them. But Karen didn't know those trees provided shade to her house in the afternoon, where when the trees were gone, Karen's house baked in the sun. Summer came with a 38°C heat wave in Vermont, where Karen's AC never stopped, and her bill went from $400 to $1,200. 2 months later, she had to move, saying, "This house is unlivable." I planted new saplings where in 10 years they'll provide shade again. But Karen won't see it, because sometimes to get revenge, you don't have to do anything but just give them what they want. This story shows how karma can be the sweetest revenge. If these kinds of true stories interest you and you want to listen, please subscribe to the channel, because every day we share life-changing true events that are shocking and emotional. I'm sitting on the front porch of my house in Vermont, in a wooden rocking chair, with coffee in hand, looking at the garden, showing 5 large oak trees where the 2 in front are 60 years old, the 2 in the middle are 70 years old, and the giant one in the back is 80 years old, with trunks so thick that 2 people would struggle to wrap their arms around them. Their leaves change in the fall from green to yellow, yellow to orange, and orange to red, where when the sun hits them, they glow like fire, showing the same view every year for 40 years. Martha and I moved here in 1982, where I was 32 and she was 30, as newlyweds with our 3-year-old son David. The house was small, but the yard was big at 2 acres, and those trees were already there because the previous owner had planted them in the 1940s. The first summer in 1983 taught us the value of those trees, because Vermont summers can be hot at 32 or 35 degrees. But our house stayed cool since the trees provided shade. From 2 to 6 in the afternoon, the sun comes from the west, but the trees block it, where the house stays cool. Martha would say, "George, these trees are our natural air conditioner." And she was right, because our electricity bill was 30% lower than our neighbors since the air conditioner didn't run as much. And autumn was magical, where by the end of September, the leaves began to fall. And every morning when I woke up, the garden looked like a golden carpet. Martha would go out and walk on the leaves, where the crunching sound was the most beautiful sound. As David grew up, he would play, climb, and hide under those trees, where then David went to college, got married, and had children of his own, including my grandchildren Emily and Jake, who would come too, climbing the same trees. Those trees weren't just trees, but our family history and our memories. But in September 2022, everything changed. September 2022, first encounter, Saturday morning. I'm working in the yard doing fall cleanup by raking leaves and gathering small branches, where I'm 72 but still strong, because daily morning walks and yard work keep me active. I see activity at the house next door, with a moving truck where a new neighbor is arriving. The old neighbor Bob moved to Florida 3 months ago for retirement and warm weather, where he sold the house. I wonder who the new neighbor will be, hoping they're as nice as Bob, who was my neighbor for 15 years. Quiet and respectful, where we went fishing together every Sunday. Someone gets out of the truck, showing a young woman in her 30s wearing sports clothes with a yoga mat, and behind her, a man who's her husband, I guess at the same age range, and a child showing a girl who's 5 or 6 years old. Good sign showing a young family, where maybe they'll be like David's kids. I raise my hand and wave, where the woman looks at me and waves back, but coldly, without a smile. But maybe it's just tiredness and the stress of moving, I think. 1 week later, first visit. The doorbell rings on Saturday afternoon, where Martha is cooking in the kitchen, and I go to the door. The new neighbor is the woman where I see her up close for the first time, showing blonde, fit, made up with everything perfect, but there's tension on her face. "Hello," she says without smiling. "I'm Karen, and I moved into the house next door." "Hello, Karen," I say, extending my hand. "I'm George, and my wife Martha is inside, so welcome." We shake hands where her hand is cold. "George," she says, getting straight to the point, "I want to talk to you about your trees." "Trees?" I say, surprised. "Yes, those big oak trees where the leaves fall into my yard, and every morning when I get up my yard is full of leaves where I have to clean them up, and it's very difficult." I pause, thinking leaves. Yes, autumn, natural. "Karen," I say calmly, "it's autumn where trees shed their leaves as natural, and it lasts a week or two, then it's over." "But I clean up every day," she says with her voice hardening, "and this is unacceptable, so can you cut down those trees?" My eyes widen. "Cut them down?" "Karen, those trees are 60 to 80 years old where I can't cut them down." "Why? Aren't they on your property?" "Yes, but they're not just trees where they mean a lot to my family." Karen sighs impatiently. "George, I'm not interested in emotional stories where I'm practical, and those trees are littering my yard, so either you cut them down or I'm calling the city." Anger starts to rise inside me, but I suppress it because I'm 72 years old and I don't want to fight. "Karen," I say, with my voice still calm but firm, "those trees are on my property, where legally I don't have to cut them down. But if the leaves bother you, I can help you by coming on weekends and cleaning up the leaves in your yard." "No," says Karen sharply, "I don't want your help where I want those trees cut down." Silence where we look at each other as I'm calm but determined, and she's angry but stubborn. "Karen," I say one last time, "I won't cut down those trees, but for the sake of neighborliness, I can help with the leaf cleanup, and that's my offer." Karen shakes her head firmly. "Fine, George. If that's what you want, I'll complain to the town." And she turns and leaves. I close the door where Martha calls from the kitchen. "George, who was that?" "The new neighbor," I say, "and I think there's going to be a problem." A letter in the mailbox shows Town of Middlebury, Vermont, Property Compliance Department. I open it, showing formal language. "Dear Mr. Mitchell, we have received a complaint from your neighbor regarding trees on your property causing excessive leaf fall onto adjacent property, so please contact our office within 10 business days to discuss compliance options. Sincerely, Robert Chen, Compliance Officer." My heart races because Karen really did complain. Martha reads the letter. "George, what are you going to do?" "I'll call the municipality," I say. "But don't worry because those trees are legal where they're on our property, and they can't force us." The next day, I call the compliance office where Robert Chen answers the phone. "Mr. Mitchell," he says, formal but polite, "we received the complaint where your neighbor, Karen Harper, says your tree's leaves are falling on her property, claiming excessive nuisance." "Mr. Chen," I say, "those trees are completely on my property at 5 to 10 meters inside the boundary where the leaves fall naturally. So what can I legally do?" "I understand," he says. "Let's do a site visit. So is tomorrow afternoon convenient?" "Convenient." The next day, site inspection. Robert Chen arrives in his 40s, looking serious while holding a folder and measuring device where he inspects the yard, looks at the trees, and measures the boundary. Karen comes outside too. "Mr. Chen, did you see that? Those trees are huge. The leaves are falling everywhere." Robert Chen shakes his head, but not at Karen, where he turns to me. "Mr. Mitchell, your trees are entirely on your property within 7 meters of the boundary, and according to Vermont state law, if the trees are on your property, you have no obligation to cut them down where the leaves are a natural occurrence. so your neighbor is responsible for cleaning them up. Karen is furious. That's ridiculous. Do I have to sweep every day? Unfortunately, Mrs. Harper, says Robert. Yes, the trees are legal where Mr. Mitchell is not violating anything. Karen glares at me angrily, but says nothing where she goes inside, slamming the door behind her. Robert turns to me. Mr. Mitchell, legally you are in the clear, but for the sake of neighborly relations, perhaps you could consider a compromise, like maybe trimming some branches? Mr. Chen, I say, I offered to help Karen with the leaf cleanup, where she refused because she wanted the trees cut down, and I can't do that. Robert shakes his head. I see. Then legally you're right. So good day, Mr. Mitchell. He leaves. I stay in the yard looking at the trees where the wind blows the leaves around with some falling into Karen's yard. I'm sorry, trees, I say aloud. I'll try to protect you. But I don't know that Karen hasn't started yet. October 2022, November 2022, December 2022. Week 1. Notes. Monday morning I open the mailbox where inside is a note, handwritten in capital letters. George, cut down your trees. Final warning. No signature, but I know who it's from. Martha reads it. George, is this a threat? I don't know, I say. But don't worry, because it's just a note. Tuesday morning brings another note on the windshield of the car. The leaves are still falling. When will you cut them? Wednesday shows one on the front door. Old man, aren't you listening? Thursday brings one in the mailbox. Your trees are ruining my life. A note every day, all in the same handwriting showing Karen's. Martha is getting nervous. George, this woman is crazy where we should call the police. Not yet, I say. Just notes with no physical threat where the police will say it's a civil matter and won't get involved. But I'm worried because Karen isn't stopping. Week 2. Lights, Friday night at 11 p.m. I'm in bed trying to sleep, but I can't sleep because there's a bright light in my room. I go to the window and look out, where in Karen's yard there's a huge outdoor light pointed directly at my bedroom, as bright as a stadium light. Martha wakes up. George, what's that light? Karen, I say angrily, it's keeping me awake. The light stays on all night where we can't sleep. And at 6 a.m. Martha is tired and irritable. George, I can't tolerate this. In the afternoon, I knock on Karen's door where she opens it smiling with a fake smile. Yes, George? Karen, I say, trying to stay calm. Your light shines into our room at night where we can't sleep. So please, will you turn it off or change its direction? Oh, she says, acting innocent. It's a security light against burglars at night. And I'm sorry, but I can't turn it off. But Karen, it's shining directly into our room. George, she says with her voice hardening, maybe if you cut down your trees, I'll turn off my light, so deal? I get it, showing this is a negotiation where she's pushing me. Karen, I say with my voice trembling with anger, I won't cut my trees, and you're turning that light off, or I'm calling the city about light nuisance. Go ahead, she says, slamming the door in my face. That night the light is on again, where Martha is crying from exhaustion and stress. George, please do something. I call the city to the compliance office. There's a light nuisance complaint. And Robert Chen says, Mr. Mitchell, there's an ordinance about nighttime lights, where after 11 p.m., it's illegal to shine light directly on a neighbor, so we'll be visiting the site. But the site visit is during the day, where Karen turns off the light during the day, and the city official says, there's no light, Mr. Mitchell. The light is off, but it turns on again at night. This goes on for 2 weeks where Martha and I can't sleep. So we get thick curtains that help, but not enough because the light is so strong it shines through the curtains. Martha's health is deteriorating with headaches and fatigue where we go to the doctor who says, sleep deprivation where healthy sleep is essential. Week 3. Sabotage. Saturday morning. I go out into the garden for routine check, where I look at the trees to see if they're healthy. I notice something showing there are cuts on the trunk of the youngest oak tree, as deep cuts like they were made with an axe, where the tree's bark is peeled off, revealing the white wood underneath. My heart races. This is deliberate, where someone damaged my tree. I look at the other trees, showing the same thing on all of them, where 5 trees all have cuts on their trunks. Not fatal, but damaged. Martha comes over. George! Who did this? Who could have done this? I say angrily, Karen? But there's no proof because it's nighttime where no one saw anything. I call the police, where an officer comes, young and disinterested, looking at the trees. Mr. Mitchell, this is vandalism, but who did it? My neighbor Karen. Do you have any proof? Camera footage? No. Then there's nothing we can do, but I'm filing a report, so if it happens again, call us. He leaves, where Martha and I stay in the garden, looking at the trees that are wounded but still standing. George, Martha says tearfully, this woman is going to destroy us, so please do something. What can I do, Martha? The police won't help, the city won't help, and I can only endure. But Martha can't endure it anymore. Week 4. Martha's breakdown. Late November shows the weather getting colder, with leaves gone as all fallen. But Karen doesn't stop. Lights every night, notes every day, and now something new, showing music. Karen has put speakers in her yard where during the day music plays loudly, as rap music with bass so powerful that our house shakes. I can tolerate it, but Martha is at her limit. One evening at dinner, Martha puts down her fork and looks at me where her eyes are full. George, I can't take it anymore. Martha, no, George, listen, because I've lived happily in this house for 40 years, but the last 2 months have been hell, where I can't sleep with stress and headaches, and the doctor says consider relocation. But George, I don't want to leave this house though. I can't live with Karen. Her hands are shaking where she's crying, as my heart is breaking. Martha, I say, holding her hand, I'll find a solution, and I promise. There's only one solution, George, she says with her voice weary. Cut down the trees because Karen wants those trees. So cut them down and let peace return, please. I shake my head. But Martha, those trees. I know, George, she says through her tears. There are memories, but I can't make any more memories because I'm unhappy every day. So George, please, for me, cut them down. Silence with just the ticking of the clock. And I know Martha is right where those trees are precious. But Martha is more precious as my wife of 42 years, and I don't want to lose her. Okay, Martha, I say with my voice breaking. I'll cut them down. Martha hugs me crying. Thank you, George, thank you. That night, I can't sleep where I think about the trees showing 40 years. David's childhood, Emily and Jake's laughter, and evening walks with Martha, all under those trees. And now they're gone because of Karen. But I realized something that night, lying in the dark, showing anger, deep, burning anger. Karen, I say aloud into the darkness, you won where I'll cut down the trees, but you don't know what you've lost. Monday morning, I call the tree removal company, Green Valley Tree Service. Hello, I say with my voice heavy. I want to cut down 5 large oak trees, operator. Okay, sir. When? As soon as possible. Would Wednesday this week be okay? Okay. I hang up where Martha is in the kitchen, looking at me with pain in her eyes, but also relief. George, it's the right decision, she says. I don't know, Martha, I say, but it's the only option. Wednesday, cutting day, 8 a.m. The truck arrives showing Green Valley Tree Service written on it, where 4 men get out with saws, ropes, and safety equipment. The foreman, Mike, approaches me. Mr. Mitchell, those trees? I point to the 5 trees where Mike looks and whistles. Wow, Those are 60 to 80 years old, so are you sure? They're beautiful. I'm sure, I say, but my voice is shaking. Okay, sir, it'll take 6 to 8 hours with noise. I understand. The work begins with the sound of chainsaws showing buzz, buzz, buzz that pierces my ears, where every sound feels like it's cutting my heart. Martha is inside with the curtains closed, saying, I don't want to see it. As for me, I'm standing in the yard watching because I owe it to them to see their last moments. The first tree shows the youngest at 60 years old, where the saw cuts into the trunk and the tree groans with a painful sound, like a human. Then it slowly bends over where Mike shouts, "Timber!" And the tree falls to the ground with a huge crash, showing boom as the ground shakes. My eyes fill with tears because the first tree is gone. The second tree, the third, the fourth, each one is the same, showing saw, squeak, fall, and noise. And I watch each one where tears stream down my cheeks. But I don't stop because this is my decision and my responsibility. 3 p.m. shows the last tree, the oldest at 80 years old with huge trunk, where Mike says, "This one is huge and we'll be careful." The saw cuts for 10 minutes where the tree resists, but finally it bends slowly as if saying goodbye to the world. Thud, showing it falls to the ground as the loudest noise. Silence because the work is done. I look at my garden, showing empty with stumps at 5 stumps 1 meter high, but no trees, no shade, and no autumn colors, just emptiness. Mike comes over. "Mr. Mitchell, the job's done, so would you like us to remove the stumps too?" "No," I say. "Leave them because maybe I'll do something." "Okay, sir. The bill is $4,500. I write the check with trembling hands. Mike leaves where the truck drives away. I'm left alone in the yard with the logs. I sit on the largest log where I place my hand on the surface that's still warm from being cut, and I feel the veins showing 80 years of growth rings. "I'm sorry," I say aloud to the trees. "I couldn't protect you." Evening, Karen's visit, 6 p.m. The doorbell rings, showing Karen, a broad smile on her face, showing a triumphant smile. "George," she says with feigned politeness, "I saw you cut down the trees, so thank you because you finally did the sensible thing." I look at her silently, where anger wells up inside me, but I don't show it. "Karen," I say calmly, "I cut down the trees where now the leaves won't fall, so can you live in peace now?" "Of course, George," she says, smiling. "No more problems and the neighborhood will be nice." I close the door in her face. Martha is inside. "Who was that?" "Karen on her victory lap." Martha sighs. "George, at least it's over with peace now." "Yes, Martha," I say. "Peace now." But there's a voice inside me, a small voice. "George, you cut down the trees, but Karen doesn't know what those trees gave her." That night, I sleep for the first time in 2 months because Karen turned off the light, happy the trees are gone with no need to harass me. But in my dream, I see the trees looking at me. "George, you cut us down, but we'll give you one last gift, so wait and see." Winter is coming where Vermont winters are harsh with snow, cold, and wind, but our house is used to it with good insulation and strong heating. The trees are gone, but the stumps remain where snow covers them like white hats, and the yard is quiet and empty. Karen is happy with no more notes, no more light, and no more music because she won and I lost, or so it seems. Martha's health is improving where she can sleep, and her stress is decreasing. "George, I was right where cutting down the trees was the right decision, and now we are at peace." "Yes, Martha," I say, but inside I think wait and see. Because I noticed something where in winter without the trees, there's no difference since in winter there are no leaves anyway, where the trees are bare with no shade either. But in spring and in summer, then there will be a difference. March 2023, the first signs. The snow is melting where spring is coming as the sun is getting stronger and the days are getting longer. One afternoon, I'm sitting on the porch at 3 p.m. where the sun is coming from the west, hitting me directly in the face as hot, even a little too hot. Martha comes in. "George, it's hot inside where I need to turn on the air conditioner." "Already?" I say, surprised. "It's only March." "Yes, but the sun is hitting the living room directly where without the trees, there's no shade." My heart quickens because here we go. It's starting. "Martha," I say, "maybe a fan will suffice because air conditioning is expensive." "Okay, I'll turn on the fan." But I know this is just the beginning. I look at the house next door showing Karen's house where the sun is beating down on her too. But it's not a problem yet because it's still spring and not hot. But when summer comes, I smile inside with a small, bitter smile. "Karen," I say quietly, "you didn't want the trees, but you didn't know what those trees were giving you. And you'll find out soon enough." Vermont is usually a cool place where summer temperatures are around 25 to 28 degrees Celsius as comfortable. But the summer of 2023 is different. Climate change brings a heat wave where the weather forecasts warn. Expect 32 to 35 degrees Celsius in June, showing record temperatures. Martha is worried. "George, our house will be hot without the trees." "I know, Martha," I say, "but we have air conditioning and we'll manage." But actually, I'm not worried because our house faces west where the sun beats down in the afternoon. But we're prepared with thick curtains, good insulation, and powerful air conditioning. Karen's house, however, faces east. And those trees, my trees, were on the east side of Karen's house where between 2 and 6 in the afternoon, the sun comes from the west, hitting the back of Karen's house. And the trees provided shade during those hours. But now the trees are gone, showing no shade. June 15th, first 35 degrees Celsius day. I wake up in the morning where the thermometer reads 24 degrees Celsius at 8 a.m. It's going to be hot today, I think. Noon shows 32 degrees Celsius, and afternoon at 2 p.m. shows 35 degrees Celsius. The air conditioner is on in our house where it's cool as Martha is in the kitchen cooking. "George, thank goodness we have air conditioning." "Yes," I say. I go out onto the porch where it's like an oven outside as the sun is beating down with the sky clear, showing not a cloud in sight. I look at my yard where the stumps are still there as 5 stumps now bone dry and cracked with no shade as the grass is drying up. Then I look at Karen's house. Her house shows the back, the living room, and kitchen getting direct sun where the glass windows are gleaming and reflecting the sun like a mirror. And a feeling comes over me, showing curiosity and satisfaction, both. "Karen," I say to myself, "I wonder how your day is going." Evening, first signs 6 p.m. The temperature is still 33 degrees Celsius where the sun is setting, but the temperature isn't dropping. I see movement in Karen's garden where Karen comes outside with her face flushed, sweaty, and looking agitated. Her husband Brian is outside too, where they're talking to each other with voices raised, but I can't make out the words. Then Karen goes inside with Brian behind her, where they slam the door shut. Martha comes over to me. "George, is something wrong with them?" "I don't know," I say. But inside I'm thinking, yes, something is happening. June 20th. Record 38 degrees Celsius. Vermont is experiencing its hottest June ever, where news channels report. Heat wave continues with 38 degrees Celsius recorded in Middlebury, so stay hydrated and use AC. Our AC is running full blast where the electricity bill will go up, but we'll manage because my pension is enough. But Karen, in the afternoon while watering the garden, I notice Karen's AC is running non-stop, where the outdoor unit shows a loud fan noise that's usually quiet, but now it's constantly running loudly. Overload, I say to myself. The AC is working too hard where it's trying to cool the house, but the sun is too strong. In the evening, on my way to the mailbox, I run into Brian, who's getting his mail too. Hi, Brian, I say politely. Hi, George, he says, but his voice is tired and tense. Hot day, I say. Yeah, he says, sighing. Our house is like an oven, where the AC is running full blast, but it's not enough, so I guess it's underpowered. Oh, I say, feigning concern. Maybe you should upgrade it. Yeah, maybe, he says, but it's expensive. We say goodbye where I head back home. Martha, what did Brian say? Their house is hot, I say. The AC isn't enough. Martha, wow, poor things. But I don't say poor things because I have another feeling inside showing justice and revenge. No, just karma. I open the mailbox showing Vermont Electric Cooperative electricity bill. I open it where June shows $187. Normal, a little high because we used the air conditioner, but acceptable since we insulated well even without the trees, where we renovated our house in 2010 with double-glazed windows and attic insulation. In the evening, I see Brian and Karen in the garden talking seriously, where Brian has a piece of paper in his hand that looks like a bill. Karen is shouting where I can hear her. What? $400? That's ridiculous. Brian, Karen, the air conditioner ran 24 hours a day, so it's reasonable. Karen, it's not reasonable? Last year it was $120. I pause thinking $400 compared to our $187. Why such a big difference? Because of trees. Last year, Karen's house was in the shade where the trees blocked the sun, so her air conditioner didn't run as much. But this year shows no shade where the sun beats down directly as the AC runs constantly, and electricity consumption tripled. I feel a sense of satisfaction inside, but I don't show it. July 10th, Karen's rebellion. The temperature isn't dropping, where the heat wave drags on with every day at 35 to 38 degrees Celsius. One morning, while working in the garden, Karen comes over where her face is bright red from the sun or anger. It's unclear. George, she says sternly. Yes, Karen, I say calmly. This heat is unbearable. My house is like an oven. The air conditioning bill is $400. I'm sorry, I say, but there's no real concern in my voice. It wasn't this hot last year, says Karen. Why is it so bad this year? I look at her, thinking, is she serious? And does she really not understand? Karen, I say slowly. Last year, there were trees that provided shade for your house from 2 to 6 in the afternoon. So do you remember? She freezes where her face changes, showing realization. The trees? Yes, Karen. Those trees, the ones you wanted me to cut down, kept your house cool, but you asked, and I cut them down. So now there's no shade where the sun beats directly on your house. Silence where Karen looks at me with her mouth open, but no words come out. But, she begins. But what, Karen? I say with my voice hardening. You harassed me for 3 months with notes, lights, music, and sabotage saying the leaves are bothering you. And I offered to help you, but you refused because you wanted the trees cut down. So I cut them down, and now you're living with the consequences. Karen's face turns white, then red with anger. You did that on purpose? You sabotaged me? No, Karen, I say calm but cold. I did what you wanted, where you wanted the trees, and I cut them down. So I didn't do anything to you because nature did and the sun did, and you shot yourself in the foot. Karen screams, You old mean man. She turns and runs home. I stay in the garden calm, but inside a fire burns, showing the fire of victory. Martha, I say to myself, revenge is sweet, but karma is sweeter. July 20th, a C malfunction, 7 a.m. I'm drinking coffee in the garden where it's cool because the sun hasn't risen yet. I hear a noise from Karen's house showing the AC unit with a strange sound, as a squeak. Then it stops. Then it starts again. Then it stops. Failure, I say to myself. 30 minutes later, a service truck arrives showing cool air HVAC repair, where the repairman gets out and Karen is at the door looking anxious. The repairman looks at the AC, where 15 minutes later, he's talking to Karen with voices raised. "What do you mean compressor burned out?" says Karen. "Unfortunately, ma'am," says the repairman, "your unit was overloaded where it ran at maximum capacity for too long, and the compressor burned out, so it needs to be replaced." "How much will that cost?" "Parts and labor, $2,500. Karen screams, "$2,500? Or," says the repairman, "you could get a new AC unit that's more powerful and more efficient for around $4,000. Karen buries her face in her hands, where Brian goes outside and talks to the repairman, and they argue where finally Brian agrees to the repair at $2,500. The repairman leaves. I'll order the part where it will take 3 to 5 days. 3 to 5 days without AC in 38 degrees Celsius heat. That night, the windows are open at Karen's house for ventilation, but there is no breeze, showing just hot air. I'm sitting on my porch drinking lemonade where our AC is working and our house is cool. And I'm watching, just watching. July 25th, the last resort. The AC still isn't fixed where the part is delayed, and Karen and her family are suffering. One afternoon, I see Karen and Brian loading the trunk of the car where their daughter is with them. I wonder, where are they going? As Brian gets in the car, he looks at me and comes over to talk. "George," he says, tired but polite, "we're getting away for a few days where we'll stay in a hotel until the AC is fixed, because we can't stay at home. It's too hot." "I understand," I say. "Have a good trip." Brian pauses, then asks, "George, can I say something?" "Sure." "Karen was wrong about the trees where she's young and inexperienced, so she didn't understand. But now she does where it's too late. But she does." I nod. "Brian, I offered to help Karen with the leaf cleanup where she refused because she wanted the trees cut down, and I just did what she asked." Brian sighs. "I know, and now we're paying the price with a $400 electric bill, $2,500 in repairs, and $500 for a hotel, showing a total of $3,400 just because of the leaves." Silence. "Brian," I say with my voice softening, "I didn't take revenge where just nature's balance is at work, because those trees weren't just for me, but for the whole neighborhood, showing shade, air purification, and beauty. And Karen didn't understand, but now she does." Brian nods. "You're right, George. Have a good day." And he gets in the car where they drive away. I stay on the porch where the sun is setting with orange and red skies showing beautiful but hot. And I feel something showing satisfaction and sadness, both. Because I won, but winning doesn't always feel good. Karen and her family are back where the AC is fixed with new compressor at $2,500. But it's still hot at 36 degrees Celsius where the AC is running. But is it enough? I don't know. A few days later, Martha and I are taking an evening walk where we're wandering around the neighborhood. "George," says Martha, "I feel sorry for Karen because yes, she was wrong, but she's suffering." "I know, Martha," I say. "I feel sorry for her too, but what could I do? I didn't want to cut down the trees where she pushed me." "Yes, but George, maybe you could help her with something." "Like what?" Martha thinks, then says, "New trees, saplings where you could plant them because there are fast-growing species that will provide shade in 3 to 5 years." I pause, thinking new trees. "Martha, why should I help them? Karen harassed me for 3 months." "Because George," Martha says, taking my hand, You're a good man where you don't live for revenge, but you live for peace. So if you plant new trees, you'll help Karen and beauty will return to your garden where everyone wins. I think for a long time. Martha, I say, I'll think about it. August 15th, Karen's apology. In the morning, I'm working in the garden where Karen comes over. But this time it's different because there's no hardness on her face, showing just exhaustion and shame. George, she says quietly. Yes, Karen? I want to apologize. I stop in shock because Karen is apologizing. Last year, she continues, I was so wrong about the trees where I only saw the leaves, but I didn't see what the trees did, showing shade, coolness, and beauty. And now they're gone where I understand what I've lost. Her eyes well up with real tears. My electric bill tripled, my AC broke, and my house became unlivable where it's all my fault, because you offered to help me and I refused. So you didn't cut down the trees, but I forced you to. And George, please forgive me. Silence where I look at her thinking 3 months ago she yelled, "Old man," at me, and now she's apologizing. Karen, I say slowly, I forgive you, but did you learn anything? Yes, she says, nodding. Respect for nature, respect for the elderly, and patience because the leaves were only falling for 2 weeks, where I could have swept for 2 weeks. But I was impatient, and now I've lost $3,400 and lived through a hellish summer. I nod. Good lesson. Karen, George, can I ask you something? Would you plant trees again? I pause because there it is, showing Martha's suggestion. Karen, I say, the old trees are gone. It's 60 to 80-year-old trees that won't come back. But I can plant new saplings as fast-growing species, including hybrid poplar and silver maple, where in 5 to 7 years, they'll be medium-sized trees providing shade. But it won't last 40 years. Karen's face lights up. Will you do that? Please, George. I'll help and I'll pay. I don't want money, I say, but there's one condition. What? You will never ever complain about the trees again, including leaves, branches, and shade. None of it where you will accept nature, okay? Okay, George, she says with her eyes filling. I promise. I extend my hand where we shake hands. It's a deal, Karen. The weather is cooling down where summer is over as the hottest summer on record, but we survived. I get 6 saplings from the nursery showing hybrid poplar as fast growing at 1.5 to 2 meters per year, where in 5 years they'll be 7 to 10 meters tall. I'm having the old stumps removed as tough work, but the tree removal company is handling it, where then we dig new holes. Karen comes to help by carrying soil and fetching water, where Brian helps too. And even their daughter Emma digs with a small shovel. We work together for 2 days where 6 saplings are planted. When we're done, we're all tired but happy. Thank you, George, says Karen. You're a good neighbor and I'm lucky. You're welcome, Karen, I say. But remember, these saplings are small where it will take time for them to grow, and you need to be patient. I'll be patient, she says, smiling. 1 year later, August 2024. The saplings have grown where 1 year later, they are 2 meters tall, still small without enough shade, but they are growing. Karen and Brian still live next door, where there's no problem now, because Karen doesn't complain about the leaves, and on the contrary, she waters the saplings and fertilizes them. One evening, Karen and Brian invite us over for dinner, where Martha and I go. At dinner, Brian says something. George, Martha, I want to tell you something where this summer was hot too, but we were prepared because we got a stronger AC and we put window films on as UV blocking ones. And our electricity bill shows $250, which is 38% lower than last year. Wow, says Martha. That's great. Yes, says Karen. And next year the saplings will be bigger, where maybe they'll provide some shade, then more. And in 5 years maybe it won't be like the old days, but it will be better. Yes, I say, smiling. It will be better. That night, as Martha and I were driving home, Martha says, "George, you did the right thing with the new saplings and forgiving Karen, where now everyone is happy." "Yes, Martha," I say, "but I learned something." "What?" "Taking revenge sometimes is doing nothing. We're just letting nature do its work, because Karen wanted the trees and I cut them down, so nature taught her a lesson. Then I forgave her and planted new trees where now the balance is back." Martha rests her head on my shoulder. "You're smart, George, and kind-hearted." "Maybe, Martha," I say, "or maybe I'm just old, where old people know life is a cycle, and you reap what you sow." I'm 77 now, where Martha is 75, and we're still in Vermont in the same house. There are 6 trees in our yard showing the saplings we planted 5 years ago that are 8 to 10 meters tall, now providing shade where they're not as strong as the old oak trees, but they're beautiful. Karen and Brian are still next door, where Emma is now 12 years old, and she plays under our saplings just like my grandchildren, Emily and Jake, used to play. One afternoon, I'm sitting on my porch where Karen comes over with lemonade. "George," she says, "I brought you something." She hands me a photo showing an electricity bill from August 2028, $195. "See?" she says, smiling. "Thanks to the trees and the shade and the coolness, it was $400 in 2023. But now it's $195 where your saplings saved us." I smile. "No, Karen. Nature saved us where I just helped." "Still," she says, "thank you, George, because you taught me the greatest lesson, showing patience, respect for nature, and forgiveness." "You're welcome, Karen." She leaves where I'm alone, and I look at the trees. "Old trees," I say aloud, "I miss you, but your legacy lives on where new trees are growing, and they'll be here for the next 40 years, maybe 80, who knows?" The wind blows where the leaves rustle as if the old trees are answering. "George, you did well because we're gone, but we forgive you, since you didn't cut us down by force but were forced, and then you planted new ones, which was our wish." My eyes fill with tears. "Thank you for you and for everything." Martha calls from inside. "George, dinner's ready!" "Coming, Martha!" I stand up where I look at the trees one more time, then I go inside. And I know that I am at peace because I didn't seek revenge, but I accepted karma. Then I forgave and started over. This is the cycle of life. And I, at 77 years old, understand this cycle. Looking back now, I understand what really happened during that year, from September 2022 to September 2023. Karen saw the trees as a nuisance, showing leaves falling for 2 weeks every autumn, where she saw only inconvenience without seeing the value. Those trees were 60 to 80 years old, where they had been providing shade, cooling the neighborhood, purifying the air, and creating beauty for decades. But Karen, in her impatience and stubbornness, couldn't see past the temporary inconvenience of fallen leaves. She harassed me for 3 months with notes, lights, music, and even vandalism, where she broke Martha's spirit and forced me to cut down trees that were part of my family's history. But here's what Karen didn't know. Those trees were protecting her house too. Every afternoon from 2 to 6 p.m., when the western sun was at its strongest, those trees stood between Karen's house and the blazing heat, where they absorbed the sunlight, provided cooling shade, and kept her home comfortable. When I cut down the trees, I knew what would happen, because I'm an engineer, and I understand basic physics showing sun plus no shade equals heat. But I didn't tell Karen because she wouldn't have listened, and sometimes the best teacher is experience. Summer 2023 brought a record heat wave with temperatures reaching 38 degrees Celsius, where Karen's house became an oven as the sun beat down directly on her walls and windows with no protection. Her air conditioning bill tripled from $120 to $400 per month. Her AC unit burned out from overwork, costing $2,500 to repair, and she had to flee to a hotel for $500, spending a total of $3,400. All of this because she couldn't tolerate 2 weeks of leaf cleanup per year. The mathematics of karma are interesting. Karen spent 3 months making my life miserable to avoid maybe 10 hours of raking leaves, and in return she spent $3,400 and suffered through the hottest summer on record in an unlivable house. But here's the important part. I didn't cause Karen's suffering where nature did. I simply gave Karen exactly what she asked for, showing a yard without trees, and nature did the rest by teaching her why those trees were there in the first place. This is what I call the revenge of doing nothing, where sometimes the best response to an unreasonable demand is to grant it fully because the consequences teach better lessons than any argument could. When Karen finally understood what she had done, she apologized with genuine remorse, where she had learned respect for nature, respect for the elderly, and the value of patience. And when she apologized, I forgave her because holding on to anger serves no purpose. I planted new saplings showing fast-growing hybrid poplars that will provide shade again in 5 to 7 years. Not the same as the 80-year-old oaks, but enough to restore balance to the neighborhood. Now, 5 years later in 2028, the saplings are 8 to 10 meters tall, providing meaningful shade where Karen's electricity bill has dropped to $195, and she tends the young trees with care and gratitude. Emma, Karen's daughter, plays under them just like my grandchildren once played under the old oaks, where the cycle continues. At 77 years old, looking back on this experience, I've learned several important lessons. First, patience is more powerful than anger. When Karen harassed me, I could have escalated by retaliating or filing lawsuits. But instead, I waited and let nature take its course, where the result was more effective than anything I could have done. Second, sometimes giving people what they want is the best revenge. Karen demanded the trees be cut down, so I cut them down where she got exactly what she wanted and learned why it was a terrible idea. Third, nature always balances the scales. Those trees were part of an ecosystem providing shade and cooling, where removing them created an imbalance that nature corrected through heat and consequences. Fourth, forgiveness restores peace. When Karen apologized, I could have been petty and refused, but forgiveness allowed us to move forward and plant new trees where now both families benefit. Fifth, the elderly possess wisdom that youth often dismisses. Karen, at 30-something, dismissed my concerns as emotional stories, but I, at 72, understood the practical value of those trees, where experience taught me what youth had not yet learned. Sixth, every action has consequences that ripple outward. Karen thought cutting down my trees would only affect me, but she didn't realize those trees were protecting her too, where we're all connected in ways we don't always see. Seventh, karma doesn't need your help. I didn't sabotage Karen or engineer her suffering, where I simply removed the protection she had taken for granted and let nature do the teaching. Eighth, the best revenge is no revenge at all. True justice comes from natural consequences, not from acts of retaliation where I won without fighting back because I understood the bigger picture. If you're facing a difficult neighbor or someone who is treating you unreasonably, consider this story before you act. Sometimes the best response is not to fight back, but to give them exactly what they're demanding, because often what people think they want is not what they actually need. And the consequences of getting it will teach them better than any argument. But remember, this approach requires patience, wisdom, and the ability to see the bigger picture. You must understand the natural consequences that will follow, because revenge through karma only works when nature is on your side. In my case, I knew those trees were protecting Karen's house, where I knew that cutting them down would have specific, measurable consequences, including increased heat, higher electricity bills, and AC strain. I didn't cause these consequences, where I simply removed the protection that was preventing them. And when the consequences came, I didn't gloat or say, "I told you so." But instead, I waited for Karen to learn her lesson, And when she did, I forgave her and helped her plant new trees. This is the difference between revenge and justice, showing revenge seeks to hurt others, but justice seeks to restore balance. I didn't want Karen to suffer where I wanted Karen to understand. And now she does, where she tends those saplings with the care and respect she should have shown the old trees, and our neighborhood is healing. Before I end this story, I want to say something to the 5 oak trees that stood in my yard for 60 to 80 years. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you where I tried, but Karen's harassment broke Martha's spirit, and I chose my wife over the trees because that was the right choice. But you were not cut down in vain, because your removal taught Karen and everyone who hears this story a valuable lesson about respecting nature and thinking about consequences before making demands. And you live on in the 6 saplings I planted, where they're not the same as you, but they carry forward your legacy of providing shade, cooling the air, and beautifying the neighborhood. In 40 years, when I'm long gone, those saplings will be mature trees, where children who haven't been born yet will play under them just as my grandchildren played under you. And maybe someone will tell them the story of the old oak trees that once stood here, and what happened when they were cut down. And maybe that story will teach a new generation to value and protect the trees they have. That would be a fitting legacy. This is my story about the trees Karen made me cut down, where what started as a conflict about fallen leaves became a lesson about patience, karma, forgiveness, and the cycles of nature. I'm 77 years old now, where Martha is 75, and we're still in our home in Vermont, with 6 young trees growing in our yard. Karen and Brian are still our neighbors, where Emma plays under the trees, and we have peace. The old oak trees are gone, but they taught their final lesson, showing that you can't take from nature without consequences, because everything is connected, where removing protection removes comfort, and demanding convenience without understanding value leads to expensive lessons. I gave Karen what she wanted, and karma did the rest, where then I forgave her and helped restore what was lost. This is how you win without fighting, because sometimes the sweetest revenge is simply letting nature take its course. And now, 5 years later, everyone is happy, where the electricity bills are manageable. The neighborhood is beautiful again. And most importantly, Karen has learned to respect the trees. That's worth more than any revenge I could have taken. If you liked this story, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts about this story in the comments. Click on the box on the left to listen to the next story.